So the new year is here, and of course, with that, it does mean the big disappointment for those that were following this $100 XRP price prediction before the end of 2025. Now, I put a spotlight on this price prediction, which I'll talk about here in a second, but it was made by Jake Clapper. Now, I want to make sure that everyone understands this right now. If we are attacking Jake for a price prediction, we need to attack everyone for every single price prediction that we have witnessed throughout the years. Not only that, but Jake is not the only one that's been talking about price predictions when it comes back to certain assets. Tom Lee has been talking about a $60,000 Ethereum and $100,000 plus Ethereum. I mean, we've been hearing about $1 million Bitcoin. I mean, listen, these price predictions, they're not brand new. This is not like a new thing that's been floating around. The only reason why, Jake gets so much slack is simply because he said it in a certain time period, and it was a very short amount of time period as well. And this has caused a lot of people to, number one, FOMO into XRP, buying in anticipation for that. And if you do, buy XRP just because of a price prediction, I'm sorry to say, but you're not going to like the outcome 99% of the time. But I will say this. I put a spotlight on this price prediction earlier in December. And the only reason why I made that video and the only reason why I made the post on X to give you guys my thought process on this was because everyone kept asking me about it. And I kind of got annoyed by reading it constantly in my comments. So I figured I would just address it one time and that's it. Now I'm bringing it back up because I've been seeing a lot of comments on the channel as well saying, hey, what about that XRP $100 price prediction? Guys, I never made a price prediction about a $100 XRP by a certain amount, point in time. I do think that XRP will get to those price targets if everything, falls in place. Now, what's the time frame on that? I have no idea. I feel as if, if we're looking at XRP, and if it's going to be utilized the way that it's intended to be utilized, then it's inevitable at some point in time for it to hit those high price targets. We don't know a time frame. Nobody knows a time frame. That's why anyone that's predicting a certain time period on this, they're almost always going to be wrong. There might be a one time in history that somebody gets this right, but I don't think that it's anytime soon. But regardless of that, right, I made the post on X and I made the post on the YouTube channel as well because of the YouTube video comments. Now, I'm bringing this back up. I'm looking into this because obviously Jake was wrong. It's no surprise there, right? Like if we are thinking with common sense and if we're thinking logically and not buying into hype and speculation, then everyone should have said, all right, yeah, this is not going to happen, but it could happen at some point in time. But this did cause a lot of people, I mean, a lot of people to start attacking Jake. And like I said, I mean, it's crazy that we're all attacking Jake at this point, but we're not attacking Tom Lee for making insane Ethereum price predictions or wrong price predictions about, the bull run and things like that. Or, the $1 million Bitcoin price predictions or the $500,000, Bitcoin price predictions. Like these price predictions are not brand new. Like this is not a new thing in crypto. It's been going on for years. But there's been so many videos made regarding this. And if we're going to attack Jake, why are we not going after everyone that's been utilizing Jake's price prediction for clicks and views and engagement farming? The same, like most of these people that are talking about this $100 per XRP target and then attacking Jake, they were using it for clicks and they didn't have a problem with it up until it was incorrect. That's the big issue. The issue here isn't so much that Jake was wrong. Sure, I think that he should take accountability for it. I think that he should come out and say like, hey, I'm sorry that I put a, time frame on this. But I still believe that XRP could hit $100. That would be totally fine. But the issue is that all of these YouTubers now and all these influencers, they were in support of this price prediction when it benefited them. And then once it was incorrect and their audience started to attack them, all of a sudden they're now on the defense and they're saying, all right, well, you know what, Jake was wrong and XYZ. I just don't like that. I really don't like that. And I did see a post come up on my timeline on the 31st, and it was actually from Zach Rector. And listen, I'm not going to go in depth on Jake's past. I really don't care. Listen, I try to stay out of a lot of the drama in this market because let's just be honest, with, you know, price action, with everything happening around crypto, with, you know, government acceptance, regulations, things like that, I feel as if there's a lot more that we can focus our time and energy on than sitting here attacking each other in this space. I did see a lot of people calling out Jake, and Zach Rector was one of the few that really got a ton of views, a ton of support. And the main thing that he was looking at was Jake's past, where he was in a lawsuit. And this goes all the way back to 2023, as you guys can see here. And it was all about like fabricating screenshots and all this crazy stuff. Again, I'm not going to go in depth on it. I just don't have, like, I didn't really look too much into this stuff. And it goes back to even Jake. Like, I didn't watch any of his content. I don't watch any of his content. I don't really, you know, follow his stuff. I do follow him on X. But regardless of that, like, I don't really look at other people's content. But the main reason why I'm bringing this up is because, yeah, he does run a company, and it is a company where essentially he wants to, you know, custody your assets and stuff. Listen, guys, you do not need anyone to custody your assets. You do not need to send your XRP to anyone. Lock it away in cold storage. Lock it away in, you know, institutional custody or something. You do not need somebody to guide you through any of this stuff. I hate these services that are offered to, you know, specific audiences in the space. It reminds me of the Hill Capital. And I talked about this in the previous video as well, where they were essentially like custodying your assets in hopes of getting like this deal made with the US government. It's just ridiculous stuff. But we're still constantly seeing a lot more misinformation in the XRP community. And it definitely goes back to even what Jake has been saying as well. And I'm not sitting here saying like Jake's the only one. He's definitely not, right? Like, there's a lot of stuff that's wrong here from Jake's side. And I don't think that the way of going about this is attacking him. I think that it's more so educating him. And you could say that, you know, I'm wrong and that I don't know anything. That's fine. I'm not going to sit here and argue with you guys. The main thing that I'm looking at here is there's a lot of misinformation regarding certain things in this space, especially when it goes back to the 1700 NDAs, right? And I always said ever since we got that court document where it did mention the 1700 contracts, I said specifically that these are not 1700 NDAs. These are not 1700 partnerships. Jake Claver said, Ripple signing over 1,700 non-disclosure agreements probably isn't random. These most likely cover talks with major players, governments, global banks, payment networks, big universities, and Fortune 500 firms, all laying the groundwork to use XRP. The pieces for mass adoption have been falling into place behind the scenes for quite a while. Now, listen, this got a ton of engagement. Good for him. You know, congrats. He's been very successful in creating engagement and also creating, you know, a ton of buzz around him. That's awesome. Good for him. The main thing that I'm looking at here is the 1,700 NDAs. Okay, the issue with a lot of these posts from Jake is that it supports his $100 price prediction, which is originally why I said, like, this is not going to happen because a lot of this stuff is just not true. And the 1,700 NDAs, it's broken down into 4 categories. And I did respond back to him. Obviously, listen, a lot of people were asking for sources and stuff. I did break down the source. A lot of people were obviously hating on this. They were, you know, in support of it as well. So to those that are looking at this stuff logically, hey, thank you. Good for you guys. You actually have a brain. Looking at this post, I said the 1,700 contracts were not all NDAs. That's the biggest misconception in those documents. Now, again, non-disclosure agreements, they could mean multiple things. The issue, I should have specified that they're not all partner NDAs. They are all NDAs, but they pertain back to 4 categories. I said this has been debunked multiple times over the years. The 1,700 contracts are broken down into 4 categories. Number 1, direct XRP transfers in commercial deals. Again, this could just simply be deals made between Ripple, commercial banks, enterprises, etc., where they are using XRP as the transfer asset. Number 2, trading agreements where partners sold XRP to or on Ripple's behalf. Now, prior to that SEC lawsuit, yes, Ripple was selling XRP to partners that sold it for Ripple's financial gain. This was the biggest problem with the SEC lawsuit. This is what the SEC was saying was essentially, them selling illegal securities. And then number 3, service payments that were made in XRP. Again, we know that Ripple has been utilizing XRP as a financial asset for their company for years. So how many of these, think about how many transactions, all the way up until that SEC lawsuit, think about how many transactions were made with XRP that were, just partners selling XRP every single month, maybe even every single week. We don't know. And then also think about how many service payments were made in XRP. This could be 700. It could be 1,000. It could be even 1,700. We don't know. We won't know for probably quite a bit of time. And then, of course, number 4, a mixed bag of other contracts, including, of course, NDAs, marketing deals, and tech partnerships. So again, the 1,700 number is likely much smaller than we think and probably is a disappointing number, just being honest. Now, this doesn't mean there isn't NDAs in place, because there definitely is, but it's not 1,700. And yeah, there's probably, we already know the number. It's between 300 and 500 partners that Ripple does have. Now, is that number out of the scope of the 1,700? We have no idea. But I would argue that it is probably disappointing on how many of these 1,700s, is partners. But the issue that I have with this is everyone is asking for sources. We should be asking Jake for the source of this. We only have the court documents. Okay. In these court documents, and I'll open this up in, a new tab just to kind of go over this. I said it's from official court documents. If only people would actually do their own research. Now, of course, not everyone has a ton of time. I understand that a lot of you view this channel and watch this channel because you have, full-time jobs, you have things going on, you don't have the time to research all this stuff. So I completely get that. But it takes 5 minutes. This takes 5 minutes to look up and debunk this post from Jake. And again, it's not just Jake that's doing this. I just want to make sure everyone understands that Jake is not only the, one person that's doing this. No, there's so many. In fact, there's a lot of people that are now coming out and attacking Jake that have also put a spotlight on how Ripple has 1,700 partners, and this is going to cause XRP to go to XYZ. This is the issue, that when somebody like Jake makes a price prediction and gets it wrong, okay, he immediately becomes the biggest enemy in the space. And we completely forget about all of the other influencers in the last 12 months that have constantly, talked about X, Y, and Z. Even myself, right? I've been wrong on a lot of things this cycle, including XRP hitting the $5 to $7 and the $7 to $10 range for the top. Now, I did hit my min targets, which were, of course, the, $2 to almost $4 range. The only reason why I made that minimum target was because of the high from 2021 and then also the all-time high of $3.84. Now we hit within that range, not too bad, but it's still not that great. But regardless of that, everyone in this space has made big mistakes or they were wrong at some point in time. It doesn't mean that they should be public enemy number 1. But right now, Jake is, because he's gone out and said that he was 99.99% sure. And he kept, talking about $100 XRP and all this stuff. And, again, when somebody makes those types of, price targets and things like that, they do become a big enemy. But also he is running a business that relies on, everyone getting excited about $100 XRP. So they, custody their XRP with him. So he's kind of in that gray space of, all right, well, if we build up enough hype and if we talk about this, hey, we'll get a lot more clients for our company. So it's hard to justify him just making a price target just to make a price target, or him making a price target to justify and actually benefit him and his company, which I do have a little bit of a concern about. But regardless of that, if we go back over here to my post from the source, again, here is the source. This is an official court document from cryptolaw.us. And in this, okay, Down here, they specify exactly, and let me just do a control F. So I want to go over this real quick because again, it takes, this is how quick it is. You just hit control F, go down here, okay? And here is where we can see a full breakdown of this. Now, this is coming from the testimony of Alan Schwartz and a few others, but mainly Alan Schwartz. The defendants offered the testimony of Alan Schwartz, a professor of law at Yale Law School and professor of management at the Yale School of Management, who opines on 1,700 contracts related to Ripple's XRP distribution. Again, related to XRP's distribution, not related to Ripple's partnerships and, X, Y, and Z. Now, Schwartz's areas of expertise include contracts, commercial law, corporate finance, mergers and acquisitions, and bankruptcy. So this can pertain back to so many different types of contracts. But the main thing that we're looking at here, okay, is that the 1,700 contracts, which are specific agreements by which Ripple transferred XRP to contractual counterparties in a variety of commercial transactions. In his expert report, Schwartz organizes the 1,700 XRP contracts into 4 primary categories. Contracts by which Ripple transferred XRP directly to a counterparty. Contracts by which Ripple's counterparties agreed to sell XRP on behalf of Ripple over trading platforms. Contracts by which Ripple paid for various counterparty services and XRP provided by Ripple, and miscellaneous contracts that do not fall into the first 3 categories. Now, again, this does not tell us, hey, it pertains back to, 4 primary categories. Number 1, Ripple partnerships. Number 2, XRP partnerships. Number 3, partnerships pertaining back to Ripple services. Like, it does not specify any of that. In fact, it's giving us a full breakdown that most of these contracts are Ripple transferring XRP, selling XRP, or paying for various services in XRP. So if we're thinking about this logically, no, this is not 1,700 partners. Again, obviously Jake was wrong. There's a lot of wrong in this community. Listen, I've been in the XRP community for years and years and years now. I have watched so many big hyped up targets come and go. One of the first ones that we really got were the, $35,000 to $50,000+ price target by The Hill Capital. There's always some sort of hyped up price target. And the main thing that I want you guys to understand here is that when you are starting to hear about these price targets or price predictions, the number one thing to circle back to is not so much the price prediction or the price target, but why people believe that price target can get hit. And I even said that here. Like, what we have in front of us is that the ETFs have been doing very, very good, right? They've been very successful. Institutional inflows in XRP continue surging. I mean, we're at like 40+ days now of straight inflows. RWAs and stablecoin value on the XRP ledger continues to grow. Capabilities around the XRP ledger continue to be improved on. I mean, they're expanding the infrastructure around the Ripple stack with XRP at the center. They've been doing this for, a while now. And this year, we really started to see that kick into overdrive. There's just been so much good news here. But with this, of course, comes price predictions, hype, speculation. But the main thing that I think that we should all focus on is, yeah, the price predictions were wrong, but the factors behind it to justify these price targets, they're definitely there. But these price targets are not going to hit overnight. They're not going to happen in 12 months. They're not going to happen in 24 months. The best way to look at this is that this is all investing, okay? When you invest in something, you're not, unless you're like trading or you're like a short-term investor, you're not looking to get out immediately. I've been holding XRP at this point for it's almost coming up on 10 years of just holding XRP. Now, I wasn't holding a massive amount during the 2017-2018 run-up. Most of my XRP has been accumulated between, like roughly 15 to, I think, like 40 cents. And I don't even know what my average is at this point. I barely open my portfolio because I just know that it doesn't matter, right? I'm not here to trade this market. I'm not here to buy and sell, every single week or month or anything like that. If I believe in this tech, if I look at this space and where it's headed, then I'm not going to be worried about these price predictions. I'm not going to be worried about all of this nonsense in the space. I know where crypto's headed. I know what the potential behind this market is. I think that's the biggest thing for us to all focus on. Obviously, there's so much going on here. There's, infighting between the community, but I just don't think any influencer in the space is perfect. No influencer is going to be perfect in the space. So the fact that we're starting to see so many people, jump on Jake's case and, attack Jake, is some of it justified? Sure, you could argue that. But I just think that it's not the way to go about this, especially if most of these influencers that are now attacking him have utilized his content and his price prediction for clicks and engagement farming. It's just ridiculous. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video.